McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Owen with a kick to full forward, Cloak, not quite, Blair, Collingwood back in front.
The seed, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm is erupted. Oh, who else? McDonald.
A couple teams this round really blew it. A couple teams, I wouldn't know if they blow it, but fell short's definitely a thing. There's a team that is probably responsible for 99% of hospitalizations in the Victoria region, and we are going to spend 50 minutes on this show alone talking about why the AFL needs overtime. I'm, of course, joking on that one. I've done that enough. We would spend 50 seconds on that one. Please don't click off. I swear I'm joking. I heard enough from you guys last season. But, ladies and gentlemen, round 19 of the AFL season had tons of action, tons of excitement, and tons of ladder implications, especially, maybe possibly, when it comes to the last four. Do we have the top 8 officially locked? We just might. We'll just have to wait and see, though. There might be a team that takes a mighty tumble when we get to our revised editions of our end-of-the-year finals predictions. But it's time. It's time to break everything down. It's time to really get into the meat and potatoes. It's time for me to probably find a way to piss half of you guys off, to make hopefully at least half of you guys chuckle. If it's pity or if it's actual joy, I'll take what I can get. But of course, I'm your host, Dawson, joined alongside by the best in the business, Coach Donnie Hess. And Coach, how are we feeling after a solid win by Sydney? They avoid the trap game, probably thanks to Adelaide not knowing which goal to kick the ball through. You guys are looking good right now.
Oh, this is one of those rounds, honestly, like legitimately, the entire round was scintillating. Like, there was not a bad game throughout any of these games. Like,
3 games I just really, really enjoyed watching, man. It was awesome.
Yep. And the crazy part is some people might say it wasn't the most entertaining, but I say the draw on Friday night was scintillating because it wasn't high scoring. It was very defensive. It was very tactical. Oh yeah. And the last 2 minutes was absolutely insane. A combination of calamity of errors and everything like that. So absolutely fascinating. And then again, we'll get into it a little bit, with the headlines, but just a scintillating game. And I would almost revise it is the Swans the Crows have played a good game for 3 quarters. Their first quarter was atrocious. I mean, and the Swans, I mean, they were like a cat on a hot tin roof. They were everywhere, it seemed like. That was about the only that really was the buffer in that game. Swans got off to an absolutely scintillating start, kicking like 7 goals in the first quarter. And the Crows just kind of spent the rest of the game just trying to play catch up. I mean, they were in it. I think the Crows actually outscored the Swans 10-8 over the last 3 quarters. So they were in it. It was just the Swans had such a great start. It was just such a mountain to climb. And the Swans did enough to hold on. So more and more pundits now are talking Swans potentially into the top 4 if they can run this last 4 games of the year, which should be quite interesting, especially with our beloved Sydney Derby coming up this weekend, which we'll have a little bit of an announcement at the end of the episode on that. So,
why wait till then? I'm gonna tell you guys now before we get into it. You're just gonna have to wait.
It's a setup. It's a perfect setup.
Give a damn. It is a perfect setup, Donnie, because we will be live once again. So make sure to catch us over on our YouTube. Typically, that does a little bit better, so we're just going to do it there this time around, and we'll be there because it's time for the second Sydney Derby of the season. This is one where I'm going to put on my overly optimistic hat and say that it's going to be a close game. At the least, I don't think the Giants pull this one off. Of course, we'll wait till we get to our tips for round 20, but no matter what, it really feels like the Giants and the Swans tried to beat the hell out of each other. It's always a close game. It's always super exciting, just like it was last year in the finals, just like it was the round 1 of this season. So I'm super excited. Please go ahead and join us over on our YouTube. We will be live for that game. And then another thing, this is the final call, essentially, to get your ladder predictions in. Going over to AFL.com.au and do your final ladder predictions. And screenshot them, send them to me, or tag us on Twitter. And whoever is closest gets a brand spanking new t-shirt. It's going to look like this, except on the backside, it's going to show off your love and your devotion. If you're anything like me, because we all know that Ross loves big cocks.
It will never end. It will never end.
It will never. The only time I might stop saying it is if Mason Cox comes on the show himself. So apparently I'm going to be talking about this for a while, but because that's a bit of a pipe dream. We'll see. We'll see. Actually, we might be able to see, because Donnie's been pumping out some amazing interviews. Go check those ones out as well. Some of the fantastic AFLW content with the season coming up very, very soon. So please go on over to fourthlong.com/AFL to check everything out there. But we're going to finally get things going. I know I've been a bit of a long wind. Hopefully you guys haven't clicked off yet, because it's time for SS's headlines. Take it away, Coach.
All right. So we kind of previewed a little bit. We're just a scintillating round of footy. Let's jump right into it. We start off, as we said, draw on Friday night with the Dockers and the Tigers leads to renewed discussion of the overtime rule. It's been fascinating. As soon as the draw happens, it almost proverbially the next particular talk shows. Any talk shows in footy, it's one of the first discussion points is, should we go to overtime? Are we missing out not having a game winners? And it does. It splits a lot of people. It splits a lot of discussions. There's people that want it to stay as a draw because both teams, hey, you got to the final horn and you weren't ahead. Neither of you deserve 4 points. Get 2 and be happy with it. And then there's the people that let's go to a golden point. First person that scores anything wins, or let's play 10-minute overtime, 5 minutes one way, 5 minutes another way, and we get a winner that way. So it's very fascinating. I kind of sit on the fence on this one. I understand. I kind of like the draw because it makes the ladder that much more interesting, because that half,
especially with the 8 being determined possibly by a 2-point team.
Yep, those 2 points really could be interesting as we go on. But there is the call that let's get a winner. I mean, most leagues nowadays have a way to solve it. Let's get a winner. But again, I sit on the fence. I see both sides. I don't really have a problem either way. If it stays a draw, I'm fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not going to make too big a deal. Yeah. We jump to that. Doggies stun the D's to renew their chances for the finals. Legitimately, I think this was one many people did not see coming. And again, the Doggies find a way to get a win, and now they're, for a lot of people, the favorite to get that 8th and final spot in the finals. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see how that goes. But
I was kicking myself because, I should have hit them. You heard me. I was on the fence. Oh, I really should have.
Now you know how I feel about the North Melbourne tippy. You got right. I was the same thing. I thought the same thing. I was like, he almost tipped it.
And also, I was kind of thinking about pulling up what you said about maybe Jamara during our tips last round. I didn't really want to do it to you exactly. Maybe we'll get recant the anti-jinx.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But Jamar Oglehagen with a big 5-goal haul really kind of showed out in this game, kind of showing why he was the number 1 overall pick in his year. We jump to it. Elliott with the after the siren winner extends Pie's win streak in a game that honestly, if I've heard stories of people that there were Collingwood supporters that left after Harrison Jones got when he got his free kick, when the free kicker was awarded, there were Collingwood people that left the MCG and missed Elliott's game winner. So it just shows you gotta stay to the end. You gotta stay to the end, ladies and gentlemen, because you never know what's going to happen. And the way this season has gone, you just never know.
That game was awesome. You really couldn't write a better ending to that, especially with the free kick from the goal going off the post and then going all the way down to score. Oh,
well, and then Essendon's debacle of defense that literally let Collingwood walk it right down the court,
Yeah, they weren't playing defense. I don't know if it's a debacle.
Jamie And then Jamie Elliott's ice in the veins, burying it from the corner, and then doing the whole put the hand behind the ear as they celebrated. And it was including Braden Maynard celebrating after getting hurt and potentially hurting his shoulder more, even though he was celebrating a win. So quite an interesting one. And last but not least, I get hurt a little bit. I go out on a limb and I miss them both. The Saints win out west to keep their finals chances still in sight. So a wet weather game that the Saints they found a way to win. They finally kind of got over the hump that they'd been kind of playing some horrible footy the last few weeks. So you got to give a little bit of credit to the Saints there, but just absolutely scintillating round of footy for this one. Just absolutely exciting. Cannot wait because 4 rounds to go and there's some cracking games still left in these next 4 rounds.
And I gotta say, they locked in the fixture for round 23 and they absolutely nailed the Friday night game, so I'm super excited about that one. Some of the Saturday games,
well, they nailed the final. They nailed the final 2 games. They have Collingwood Carlton as the precursor to the Saints Swans, the last game of the entire round. So literally, as I'm watching the Saints Swans match, literally the finals could be set by then. Like we could literally know the 8 teams that are in the finals by then, and it literally might be the Swans playing for whatever position they're going to be, and the Saints potentially either out or having a chance to still make the finals if certain things go their way. So absolutely fantastic setup of round 23, because a lot of the games that are they're not going to make an impact on the finals, they're in the middle part of Saturday. I mean, the North Gold Coast, the Geelong West Coast.
Down the Gold Coast, not exactly out.
They got it. Unfortunately, that loss to them against Brisbane really hurts them. That really hurts them. Same thing. But with
just wait until we get to our final lap predictions, because it might get a little crazy.
Oh boy,
crazy.
Here we go.
I'm saying, man, it might be a little crazy. You'll just have to wait. That's all.
I'm looking forward to
it. That is going to roll us into our overreactions for round 19. Of course, for those that don't know how this works, I got 3 statements for Coach Donnie, and I might be overreacting, or I might actually be onto something, and Coach Donnie is going to set me straight, and he's going to give me a real answer if I'm crazy or if I'm crazy smart. Start us off. We are going to talk about Port Adelaide. This is a team that is right outside of finals at the point. This loss, kind of choking at the end to Geelong, certainly is not going to help. And so, with that being said, Donnie, Port Adelaide, I think this is a bit of a twofer, actually, when it comes to a statement. So you're going to have to break down a couple things. Port Adelaide is the best team that won't make the finals.
Actually, sir, I think this is right on the money. I legitimately agree with this entire sentence. Legitimately, I think that unfortunately this loss to this loss to Geelong came at the worst possible time. This was their opportunity to stamp themselves in it. Well, and the thing that doesn't help is that they don't get help from the Doggies. Like, they needed the Doggies to lose to Melbourne, and it didn't happen. So now the Doggies have that advantage of the extra game. So Port literally has to win the Final Four, and they have to get a little bit of help, because there's a lot of games that are still winnable for some of the teams around them. So I think Port's going to fall just a little bit short, which really it shows that you can't dig yourself too big a hole early in the season sometimes and still expect to make finals. So I do not think this is an over. I think this is 100% on the money. I think Port's just going to fall. They're just going to fall short of the finals, and they're probably the best team of the teams that don't make it.
They're probably going to be up there, depending on what we can see from the Saints. Late, the Saints might be able to rival them in terms of competency. But I'm also using the word Saints and competent in the same sentence. Normally there's the word not between them, or "im" before the word competent. So not one I would say too often. So we'll definitely stay on that one. Definitely some interesting ways that the season could end off here. And speaking about ending the season, let's talk about statement number 2, because we got 2 teams on 9-game winning streaks. One streak probably a little bit, beefier than the other in terms of competition, and probably most importantly in terms of win margin. But statement number 2, Donnie, is that Collingwood will finish the year with a longer winning streak than Geelong.
I honestly, sir, I don't think so. Collingwood got lucky in against this Essendon key. Essendon literally handed them the game at the end. The missed goal, which is absolutely killed. But then the fact that their defense was not set up at all, like they assumed that was going through for a goal. Yeah. To where 6 guys were standing along the 50-meter mark, to where 2 kicks, one to Pendlebury to more over the top to Bianco, and they were out. Like literally, the only thing that still would irk me off even more is the fact you had 2 defenders on Jamie Elliott, and Elliott still marks the footy. Like it was,
which was a fantastic mark, by the way, but also
it is and it isn't because he catches the ball. That's great.
Yeah.
But he catches it with 2 defenders that I'm still trying to figure out what they were doing. Like, neither of them really looked like they were going for the mark. Neither of them looked like they were playing the ball at all. It was shambolic defense, if I'm 100% honest with you. Collingwood survives again. I'm not going to say it's lucky because you got to execute to be able to win. So I don't want to use luck. But they were given a gift. Essendon lost this game more than Collingwood won it. And again, this is no disrespect to Collingwood. You won the game. Plain and simple, the 4 points are in the bag for you. But Essendon lost this game more than Collingwood won it, in my personal opinion. And looking at their schedule, these final 4 games, none of them are easy. In fact, I could see a possibility, legitimately, Collingwood loses all 4 games to end the season. There is a possibility they lose all 4.
I think they split them.
Port Adelaide this week, though it is at the MCG, that is a tough matchup. Port Adelaide, they gave Geelong the toughest test that Geelong has had since earlier in the season. Like legitimately, since Geelong has been on this run, this is the toughest matchup they had, and they played the D's in this matchup. Think about that. So Port Adelaide steps into this game after literally giving Geelong everything it could handle and just falling a little bit short. Then you get the D's, who maybe they're going to be fighting to try to stay in the top 4, so they're not going to take Collingwood lightly. Then you get Sydney up at the SCG. Sydney's fighting for a top 4 spot. That's not going to be an easy game. And last but not least, your old rivals in the last game of the one of the last games of the round. And again, Carlton still has a shot to keep themselves in the top 4 spot. None of these 4 games. None of these 4 games are easy.
Seeding. Yeah.
It depends on how both teams do, because that could be a seeding game massively. Like here again, you could see a situation where the winner of this game is technically the home game team in the next game, which could then again be against the other again. If the games play out the way they could, like at least a quick preview of my ladder predictor. It doesn't matter who wins this because they play each other in the first round of the finals.
I
have these two, 6th and 7th.
Ooh. I might have a little bit of an interesting 6 if you guys want a little bit of a hint at what we're going on. Honestly, I think Geelong ends. It has the longer streak. I think Geelong can get to the end of the season. Honestly, let me pull up their schedule really quickly, because they got the Doggies, then they have St Kilda, they have Gold Coast, and the West Coast Eagles. I think the best part is
that 3 of those games are down at GMHBA, their home stadium that they play really well. The only road game is Metricon against the Gold Coast Suns, and
that's why it's going to be a wet game. They're not going to try to get their players hurt. That's why Gold Coast is going to win that game, and at least be percentage points into making the finals. The Gold Coast Suns are still in contention. I am not giving up on this team yet.
We're holding on to that one with both hands, sir.
It's all I got at this point, Donnie. I don't know what else you want from me. I'm just. Come on.
I don't mind it, but I think this is I think it's an overreaction. I think Geelong will have the longer winning streak going into the finals.
Absolutely. I can get behind that one. The last one is There's a few teams that we could probably make this claim for. Some teams this round had leads that they blew late, that they blew maybe halfway through the game, but still blew nonetheless. I mean, we got through talking about Essendon. There's Melbourne that's up there. There's, of course, Port Adelaide as well. And even Richmond, they really dropped the ball there at the end, especially with that little bit of a, what we call it, a mental gaffe to the mental play on gaff. Is that what we're going to deem it?
Noah Balta's howler when it comes to not paying attention to the play on clock. But then you also got to give Frederick a lot of kudos there, because he kept looking at the umpire, making sure, and as soon as the umpire yelled play on, he hauled tail and was able to smother that kick from Balta, which, I mean, again, you kind of look at that a little bit too, is that's an incredible play and a huge gaffe by Balta, not knowing the time. So crazy. But the team that beat the bluest.
Yeah. But the real statement here is that the team that blew a win the most this round was Melbourne. And notice how I said blew a win, not blowing, not choking a loss. Maybe I don't know. You guys know what I mean. Probably. I hope Donnie knows.
I got you. No, I 100% agree. This is not an overreaction. I 100% agree with you. This was a winnable game for the D's. It's not like they're playing a powerhouse team that's in the top four. They're playing a Doggies team that honestly has been inconsistent form wise. Yes, they got Bailey Smith back, which I think has kind of rounded them out a little bit, made them a little bit stronger. But legitimately, the D's, I mean, pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen, they shit the bed on this one. They literally shit the bed on this one. They can't.
Well, maybe not literally, but
okay, come on here. Right. But they had the perfect opportunity, a very winnable game, a game against a team they should win, and they didn't. And they blew it. And now there's questions of, will they stay in the top four? Because it's not an easy run home. They've got some difficult matchups, a couple of games that are not going to be easy, including this one coming up this round. I mean, this round one is massive. I think the loser of this game is probably out of the top four. Legitimately, I think the team that falls in this one might drop out of the top four, because I think some of the teams behind have winnable games that probably will be able to leapfrog over them. But yes, this was a massive loss, more from Melbourne. You could say Essendon, because I mean they had the lead up until the siren, and then but again, it's you hate saying it, and again, Essendon fans, please don't be angry with this. It's Essendon. They have not exactly been a consistently solid team this year. They have been very inconsistent. And they were playing Collingwood, that seems to be the second chance pies. They seem to always find a way to get it done. So it's very fascinating. So yeah, I would have Melbourne as they blew the biggest win opportunity on this round.
Yeah, calling. Oh boy, yeah, calling them inconsistent. Definitely word to put with the Doggies. It's so weird. The way that the final run of the season can end up is that the Doggies very well could be like the most feared team, even just making it into the 8th spot when it comes to finals, just because they apparently have what it takes to beat top 4 teams, but you also have no idea what you're going to get from them. It's the biggest wild card that we've seen, and it's entertaining at the least.
It definitely breeds some wow factor and entertainment factor as this goes on, because there's still if you ask most people, the seven teams have already kind of stapled themselves into the finals. It's that 8th spot we don't know about, and it has been the poison pill that none of them want. Like legitimately, nobody wants the magical eighth spot. Nobody wants it, because as soon as somebody gets it, they find a way to lose it. They lose a game that they're not supposed to lose, so it's going to be interesting to see who's the one that gets the raffle ball, that gets the number 8 ping pong ball at the end of this, because it's going to be fascinating. Because
at least this round, the Doggies have a legitimate reason if they lose, because they're playing Geelong. So it's not like they just kind of blew it. But I'm actually super interested about that game. Another tease coming up is we'll see. My bold tip of the round was something that I just pulled the trigger on this one. You guys might have some statements saying it's not bold, but the odds and especially tipping percentages say otherwise. So you're gonna have to go ahead and wait till that, because I got some ground to make up in our tipping tournament. I'm 5 games back. We got 4 rounds to go. Oh, it's and if it wasn't for my bold tip, I would have gone 8-1 last round. And if I pulled the trigger on the Doggies, there's obviously, hindsight's 2020, but I definitely could have had a legit chance at 9-0. So we'll see. Brad's kind of kicking our ass right now. It's kind of
he keeps hitting the games that he needs to. That we either go for a bold one, or he goes for a bold one and he hits it. Like, it seems like when he goes for a bold one, he hits it, and we go for a bold one and we miss it.
I've hit like a few this year is what it is. You guys are welcome. I am risking my chance at winning our tipping competition just so I can give you guys maybe an ounce more of entertainment. But screw it, it's what I'm here for, baby. You guys are the only thing that matters. Screw it, tipping competition. We don't even have cash on it anyway, so it's definitely a pride thing. And I really don't. Is what it is sometimes. I sound stupid, but also I think the reward of getting a horribly bold tip right is worth not winning the tipping competition at the end of the year. So, is what it is. To each their own. I'm also just a jackass. But before we get to what the blank for this round, we're not done with Melbourne. Oh boy, you guys, there's a couple things up in the air. And before we get into our updated finals predictions, we're going to talk about a couple things. First off, we're going to talk, firstly, we're going to talk about the Medi-Sub rule. But before we get into that, I'll break out something new that I'm going to try to do each round. I just need teams or fans or something to give me something to work off of each round. And I'll definitely be able to bring you guys this, because we're dropping Ross's superlative of the round. Now, this is something that, like I said, I want to do. I'll probably post about it as well. Of course, you can find us at Fourth Lawn Media on both Instagram and Twitter. You find Coach Johnny over at Coach Hess40 over on both platforms as well. But this round, it goes to the team most likely to give their fans a heart attack, and that is obviously going to go to Collingwood, because they cannot stay out of a close game to save their life, especially on this win streak. In just this 9-game winning streak alone, they've had 5 games come down to just 1 score. But the positive to that, Donnie, is they are undefeated when it comes to a 1-score game. They are 5-0 on the season. So all I know is that no matter who they play, they could be playing Geelong, they could be playing West Coast. But as long as they get the game within 6 points or less, they are guaranteed to win that statistically. I don't know, maybe the Victorian media, or maybe Victorian, I just said that, maybe they call that Freudian slip. I was going to try to talk trash about something Victorian, and the media was the first thing that came to my mouth. So, there's my accidental bashing of the Victorian media. Whoops. Is what it is. You guys had it coming. But the Victorian healthcare system, hopefully you guys have some great hospitals down there, especially in the Victoria area, because seems like they're at full capacity, especially when you had a roaring MCG. Probably, I don't know exactly how many people they had there, but you probably at least 10,000 of them having to go to the hospital afterward. So, man, good for you guys, especially if it's for profit. I don't know how it works. But Collingwood, stop giving your fans heart attacks and win the game. Just a way that you should, and not until after the siren up some of the most bullshit stuff. But there you go, superlative of the round, Donnie. I feel like that's the only team that this year that can qualify for that one.
It's hard to argue again. Another win again. Collingwood did what they needed to do to be in it. Did Essendon give them the opportunity to win? Yes. But Collingwood had to be there. They did what they needed to do. They got the win. They executed. We'll have to see how this goes, because, again, is it great for finals that they can win tough games? Yes. But the issue is that some of these tough games are against teams that you really shouldn't be playing this close to. It's the one worry I have with Collingwood going into.
Hopefully, they don't have to rely on percentage points when it comes to seeding,
because they're not to see, because their percentage is not good. Their percentage is, if you look at it percentage wise, they shouldn't be in the finals. if you go by percentages, they should not be in the final. If you look at the ladder, where their percentages, they are far above where they should be on the ladder.
Collingwood has 106.2 percentage. The second lowest team currently in the finals is the Doggies at 100 and it's 111.9, round up to 112. So they're 6 points less than the 8th team, and they're in the top 4 right now. So,
well, and here's the crazy thing: if you just go by percentage, like if you take the records away and just look at percentage, they should be 11th. 10th. They would be 10th. They would be 10th by percentage. They have the 10th. They have the 10th percentage. When it comes
Richmond's
to it.
ahead of them, and
yep, because Richmond's at 114. Even the only they would be 9th. I forgot.
They'd be 9th. Okay.
103. St. Kilda's 103.
They're also right above Port, who's 105.
Yep.
So percentages are getting kicked from 4th to 9th. That's interesting statistics.
And that's only if you go by percentage. But that just shows you that if you win games, they're winning them by close. They're not getting percentage boosts. Like I said, if it comes down to even percentage, they're going to be further down. So we'll have to see. Again, great win. I mean, again, I think there's a few Collingwood people that heart palpitations is definitely probably what they experienced over this past weekend. But you want to know what? In the long run, the numerous videos of Collingwood people losing their absolute minds when that goal went through is, I mean, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Maybe
it's double-sided take there, because with them being the most likely to have heart attacks, it could be out of joy as well. That is a thing that happens. So, hey, maybe. Collingwood just says, if I had to compare them to a NFL team over here stateside, probably the other team known as giving their fans heart attacks every week, that is the Seattle Seahawks, at least over the last couple seasons, have been known for having one-score games, blowing leads, having to come back late in the fourth quarter and winning still. But it's a good thing that there's a hospital right close to the stadium, because it really seems like those fans. Yeah, it's a good thing that Russell Wilson at least was making plenty of visits there to keep those Seattle fans happy. But what we're going to move on to here is, when something like this happens, especially on the Friday night game, especially against Richmond of all teams as well, there's going to be talks about it, and there's going to be talks about, once again, it's not umpire dissent, it's actually the Medi-Sub rule. Well, I mean, really, we only had 2 choices of a reoccurring rule that keeps popping up every single round.
Well,
this round we
could have done the head high tackle. We could have done the head high tackle.
We could have done that
this week.
Well,
but I think that's been kind of pounded into the ground. So yeah. I don't mind a change. I don't mind a change of tack here.
Here we go. Also, it was a good call anyway. The AFL got it right with it not being a high tackle. So go ahead.
At the start, again, as we said prior, at the start, it was he lowers his knee. If you watch it really closely, he lowers his knee and he raises his hand. The original tackle is not high. It is not. If you
sound off in the comments if you have further thoughts about that one, because I'm sure you guys do.
I really want to see. I really want to see, because every photo, every still shot that I have seen on original contact, his arm hits him at the top part of the arm, but is not onto the shoulder. So the original tackle is good. Is the headlock a free kick? Yes, I will give it to you, Collingwood fans. You're 100% right. It should have been called. It wasn't. But then again, though, here's my favorite response to this. It's like Collingwood ends up winning the game, so it's not like that call cost you. Is Ginnivan being singled out? Yes. I mean, it's hard not to argue that he isn't, but he kind of brought this upon himself. He bragged about it. The league started paying attention to it. It became an issue. It's the one thing, and again, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers. It's south of Melbourne, down in Geelong, because heaven forbid you besmirch the name of Joel Selwood.
Oh no!
But the one thing Joel Selwood has never done.
I have to bleep that out.
The one thing Joel Selwood has never done is bragged about being able to get away with it. So, I mean, all due respect, Collingwood fans, you say he's being attacked. Well, he kind of brought it on himself by bragging about it. If he wouldn't have said anything, if the bravado wouldn't have been there, who knows if this would be an issue? It's something to think about. So,
shout out to Donnie finding one of the only ways to get us canceled in Australia. he has doomed the show. But also shout out to Minivan for doing a little funny thing, putting that is his profile picture over Instagram. I got a good chuckle out of that one. But some of the things I came out here, of course, it's because Richmond subbed out Ben Miller for Maurice Rioli, who made an immediate impact on the game. And there's conflicting reports to what the hell the injury even was. I think they were talking about cramps. There's a calf cramp. There's a full body cramp. We're all the kinds of cramps. But also there's a cramp, a 2-week injury. I don't know about that one.
There's the other curveball there is that's also the misconception too, is that the 12-day restriction
is it more like a guideline?
Is only for concussions. It is not for other injuries. So that's where there's a little bit of the misconstrued there, is that people are like, well, the 12 applies to both. No, it doesn't. The 12 only applies to concussion because that is a concussion protocol. No other injuries have that on there. So the cramp, again, I will asterisk this because whether it is or isn't, I don't know. Again, I'm not questioning the integrity of the doctors. I would be more of questioning the integrity of the coaching staff, because they made a change for a guy that wasn't doing well to a speedy guy late in the game to make an impact. So it's kind of one of those. There's a lot of
giving nudge to doctors. Hey, this guy's having horrible cramps. They can't play, right?
Well, there's a lot of question marks over it. Again, whether it is or is not nefarious, I don't know, and I hate it. The thing is everybody's jumping on it. Well, it's nefarious. If this guy doesn't play this week, all of this talk is going to literally seem ridiculous. That's my honest opinion. Does he play this? Like, if I'm Dimmer Hardwick, and again, this is inner coaching me here, I would screw with the Victorian media and I wouldn't put him in there. No matter if he can or can't, I would make sure he doesn't play this week, because that would literally make all of the arguments, all of these people, this is a nefarious use of the rule. People lost their minds over this between Friday and Saturday. If I'm Dimmer Hardwick, I end all of it. I make sure the kid doesn't play this week, because then all of the talk, literally, you can say he's still having issues with it. He pulled up sore during the week. We're not going to play him this week. Boom. All of the arguments that he did it nefariously are gone, because they can't. Well, Dan, would you look at that? I just saw a new article pop up from the Daily Sun saying that Hardwick, quote, hates Victorian media, hopes they die, and has banned his players from drinking pickle juice in mustard so that they always will cramp. Wow. Riveting news from a little excessive there. But again, jeez, you find to get some of the most controversial opinions on here for sure. No,
I have a talent.
Again,
I bring in the controversy. You bring in smarts. It's what we got going on here.
I do my best.
One of us is better at the other.
I don't know if you read some of the YouTube comments. All I'm doing is sucking about something I know nothing about. So we'll go off that one. So,
YouTube,
yeah.
I love you guys.
Yeah, again, I won't go into that controversy, but again, we'll have to see. Again, if I'm Dimmer Hardwick, I nip this in the butt, and I just make sure the kid doesn't play this week, because then
do you think any rule changes can come out of this? One thing that they've been talking about is maybe changes to interchanges and amount of substitutions you can have on there. Is there really a change you have to make to this rule either? Because really my thoughts on this was that he might have. This is almost like towing the line, because he probably couldn't have played that game. Is a cramp really the reason why the Medi sub rule was introduced? Is that the kind of injury they had in mind? No, probably not. But I don't think that the rules are there in play. He's not just totally faking an injury, but he's just taking advantage of the rule set that he has. I don't think there's anything dirty with this. At the least, it's probably just smart coaching, because he did nothing wrong. If you're going off the rules.
Here's the thing though, is that I actually do know the Medi sub was brought in for concussions specifically, but the thing though is the rule was very fuzzy when it came to it, because they didn't specifically say it is a concussion. It became a Medi sub in case
the AFL with a fuzzy rule. I've never heard of them doing that before.
In case of a bad injury. But the thing though is that many people then assumed that the 12-day non-playing, like the concussion, would then go as well, and it didn't. There's nothing in the rule that said if it wasn't a concussion that they had to sit out 12 days. So there's a little bit of people kind of assuming, and again, the old quote, you know what assuming does to you, it makes a you know what out of you and me. So I won't fully say that. I'll at least somewhat censor myself on that one. So is the rule being egregiously abused as much as I'm hearing so many people talk about? I don't think so. I honestly don't think it's that bad. I'm not seeing the drama. I think this is a recency bias of, oh my gosh, potentially he could have been subbed out for a non-legitimate reason. Oh my God, let's lose our minds. And my first thought is did it affect the end of the game? No. What's the big deal? Legitimately, what's the big deal? Unless you can legitimately prove this guy was pulled and was not hurt and can still continue, which they can't. I'm not seeing I literally see it's like literally having an acorn hit you in the head and going, oh my God, the sky is falling. Like legitimately, that's how out of context I feel this whole thing is. I bet you if you go to most of these clubs, 95% of the Medisub rule usage is for legitimate, they cannot continue injuries. So it is not as nefarious or not as egregiously abused as people think it is. Like, I have not seen a game where I've went, ooh, that looks a little nefarious. Every injury sub, at least that I've seen, and again, I don't know the specifics. Most of them, they're like, ooh, that guy's, he's not going to continue to play. Torn hamstring by Phil Davis. That's a legitimate injury. Guy gets a concussion where he's literally, he's got a wobble neck and can't keep his head straight. That's a legitimate injury sub.
Even cramps are legitimate, man. Cramps can be, they can immobilize you.
Exactly. So I hate this jumping to conclusion that it's a nefarious reason. Again, do we take a little bit of grain of salt with how some of these things are handled, especially? Yes. But again, unless it makes a massive impact on the game and like changes the game, which again, this Medisub didn't, I'm not seeing the big deal. Again, maybe I'm underselling it. I don't know. I'm giving Damian Hardwick rope that if he wants to hang himself, I'll let him do it himself, or his doctors. I'll let them do it themselves.
Yep.
But I'm going to give them the rope to be able to do it, because I'm not going to sit here and go, you did wrong, because I do not have the evidence to prove that. And because of the way these clubs are handled, I don't think you're going to.
Well, to be fair, it's the AFL, and our rules as fans is to make a mountain out of every single molehill that we come across. I think this is fine. I understand why people might think this is illegitimate, trying to take advantage of the rule, just because, like, especially with there being an immediate impact to the game as well, that definitely can be controversial, I guess, or at least adding to the controversy, adding fuel to the fire. But I thought that this was fine. And honestly, I don't think the rule needs to be changed.
Can I make one little adjustment to that? Is that for everybody? It's like, okay, so who came on as the Medisub? Morris Rioli Jr., correct?
Yeah.
You want to know how many disposals Morris Rioli Jr. had?
A few.
2. That's it.
Couple. Ooh.
Two disposals and 2 tackles. Yeah, he made a massive difference in the game. I don't think so.
Maybe
again, as I said, he had no score involvements. He had 2 tackles. He had 2 disposals. That's it. I don't see the controversy, because the Medisub made no impact on this game. He had no score involvements. He had no goal assists. He had 2 disposals. That was it. So there's no impact on the game at all. None.
So, what we're saying that this is a non-issue that we should be able to move on.
I think it's a mountain out of a molehill.
Yep.
I think people saw a guy come off. They didn't see him get hurt, so they tried to make it off like it was much more of a bigger thing than it was. Did they get a faster player on that could have made an impact? Yes. Did he? No. So
yeah. Well, safe to say that just like what we do when it comes to Medi-Sub controversy, we should just move on. And we're going to talk about our updated finals predictions, because this is a story that is actually fun and actually interesting, and is actually something we like to talk about. Because, I don't know about you, Danny, but for me, especially after this round, things got a little bit crazy when I looked through and kind of made a couple changes here. There's some teams that are still... I think the only thing that didn't change for me was the seeding for Geelong, Brisbane, Carlton, and the Doggies. The middle four... So the top two stayed the same for me. The bottom two stayed the same for me. But the four in between, we have some changes, and we have some additions or some new additions to the top four. Aria, did you have as much change as I did? Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less?
Not a super ton amount. If I remember correctly, let me pull this up. I had the biggest change that I had is my 8th place team is now out and it has been replaced. 7 and 6 are still the same. 5 and 4 have flipped, if I remember correctly.
Sydney's now in the top four.
Sydney's now in the top 4. Melbourne is out of the top 4. Melbourne is
I
fifth.
have them falling to 6, actually.
Yeah, I have the Doggies. The Doggies flip in for Port. Collingwood at 7. Carlton at 6. Melbourne at 5th. Sydney at 4. Fremantle at 3rd. Brisbane 2, and Geelong 1.
That's fair. What I actually have, so my top 4 is from 4 to 1, Sydney, Freo, Brisbane, and Geelong. What's really tough is kind of going in my tease about the Suns, is that as of now, they are going to miss the finals by 2.5 percentage points. They're sitting at both the Doggies and Gold Coast. I have them sitting at 48 points, but the Doggies have 109.6, while the Gold Coast only has 107.1. So might be a little bit of heartbreak there. I certainly will hope that the Suns have a good enough percentage. But also one of the things I'm writing on is that Geelong will be resting their starters when they make a move to Metricon later this year, and the Gold Coast is able to steal a win there. Obviously, there's a lot that has to happen for that to actually be correct. But you know, we're writing on that one. And I think so. Collingwood dropped out of the 4 for me from last time. They are at 5, and it really comes down to Melbourne for me. We kind of hinted it earlier, Donnie. They do not have a very friendly stretch of 4 games to cap off the season. They have they're going to be going to, when we get to our tips this round too, heading to Optus to take on Fremantle. They will be at the MCG in a home game against Collingwood, MCG home game against Carlton. Then they will be on the road to, I believe it's going to be at the Gabba against Brisbane. So what do you think here? Because this is the kind of the biggest part of our ladder. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that as a tease for our What the Blank. But what do you think is the... is there maybe a game that changed for you that was maybe a bigger one that... because I see in round 20... round 22... At the SCG, we have Sydney and Collingwood taking on each other. I think that's a game I definitely have circled a couple times in red.
That one's really going to kind of depict whether Sydney gets in the top 4, whether Sydney or Collingwood has a chance in the top 4. I think the winner of that has a better chance again in the top 4.
Yep.
With that
well,
one.
To me, the winner that gets the top 4, the other one gets 5.
I think it really all kind of hinges on what Melbourne does this week against Fremantle. Like if Fremantle beats Melbourne, that opens the door for Collingwood or Sydney to hop into that 4th spot and knock Melbourne out of the top 5. I mean, and the craziest part to think about it is that at least with mine, an elimination final, first game, grand final rematch, Western Bulldogs Melbourne Demons.
Ooh.
That's if my ladder predictor goes perfect, it goes correctly, that is an elimination final, meaning one of the two grand finalists will be out after the first game of the finals. One of them will be out after the first game of the finals.
I love that. Now, if we want to talk about finals drama, let's talk about that game. Dude, that would be awesome. I wouldn't have that kind of drama, but Carlton against Melbourne could be good fun there at the MCG. But I do have it where we might be able to see Collingwood against Carlton if one of these works out here. But definitely interesting, and definitely would be a horrible shake if the Suns missed out on that. But this is definitely something we're going to be keep on updating, taking a look at. And like I said earlier, go ahead, go do this. We just used a finals predictor on the AFL.com website. Go ahead, go through that. And as long as you get your submission into us via screenshot, drop your list in the comments on YouTube. Probably one of the easier ones, screenshot it and then add us or reply to us on Twitter at Fourth Long Media. You guys will be put into a running to win the greatest footy shirt ever manufactured, and you'll get that for free. And it's whoever gets the closest. You don't even have to get it right. You just have to be the closest one to getting the finals right now. So if you guys can do that, you are getting yourselves a free T-shirt. And honestly, I'm legitimately a fan of these T-shirts. Donnie's a fan of them too. The actual material, it's a nice T-shirt, you know.
Awesome. Hey, before we get into what the blank is, not normally we have this, but we have some breaking news. Angus Brayshaw has re-signed a massive 6-year contract extension with the Melbourne Demons. So Angus Brayshaw, who a lot of people were talking about potentially could go play with go out to Fremantle to play with his brother, has re-signed a contract extension with the Melbourne Footy Club. 6 years.
That do we get a contract amount on that one?
Nope, they don't tend to do contract amounts on that. We don't get total. We don't get figures on that one. We just get years and that they've signed.
You know what? Years, fair enough, because 6 is pretty damn long when it comes to footy contracts. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Wow. Yep. Melbourne fans,
40 minutes ago, AFL just put that out. Yep.
That is big news. Damn. I was kind of hoping we were going to be able to see the reunion Freo, and also because I love my Freo fans, that would make Freo a really damn good team. But great move by the D's here. Initial reactions, Johnny?
It'll be interesting. It definitely, I think, if you ask some, is the reason that they're able to give him a longer contract is because Luke Jackson will be leaving the club, because there's a lot of talk that he wants to go home. He wants to go back to Western Australia. Fremantle sounds like the most likely landing spot. So with him coming off the books, not having to sign a huge contract extension, it may leave a little bit more money for a Gus Brayshaw to be able to re-sign and stay there. So first initial thoughts, great signing. It keeps another star at the old club of Melbourne. Does this contract signature pretty much guarantee that Luke Jackson is gone? Is the $1 million question we don't know. Does Melbourne know that enough that's the reason that they got Angus to re-sign, is because of the fact that they're pretty much going to let Jackson go. It's the trade of what they get in from Fremantle in return.
Sounds like Freo is still going to get a hell of a player add to their list for next year. So nothing too wrong with that when things go the way we may expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's definitely interesting. But the funny part about it is that most of the mail coming out the last couple of days was that Angus and Jackson were headed to Freo.
Oh,
so that's why this comes a little bit of a surprise that some people, I've even seen some say that basically they thought that this was Angus playing Fremantle a little bit. It was using Fremantle to get a bigger contract from Melbourne, which could be quite a coup for his management to be able to get that big 6-year contract.
Now that's maybe a move right there.
Kind of playing the media card a little bit, that he's getting close to signing with Fremantle. So that's
smart, man.
Maybe that's how that worked.
if you can leak any bit of news, anything to the news tagged by anonymous source, then you guys are going to be in. You're going to be making some money right there. That is a fantastic move for his management team, if that is actually indeed what went down. But as we are going to move on into, before we get to Deep of the Round and our tips for round 20, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for What the Blank. Now, this is the segment where I give Coach Johnny 3 statements, and each one of them have a blank at either the beginning, the middle, or the end. And it's up to him to fill in the blank with whatever he so chooses. And I was kind of talking about how I almost had a question from Melba, but I figured we save it because start us off, Donnie. So before we get to statement number 1, just taking a look at the final 4 games that the D's have, they are not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, especially kicking us off is going to be in round 20. They're going to the not-so-friendly confines of Optus Stadium to take on the surging Fremantle Dockers, who look to kind of make up for lost ground, only snagging 2 points in round 19. Then they also have they will be having a home game against Collingwood, a home game against Carlton, and then they go on the road to end the season against Brisbane. So, with that being said, Melbourne will finish blank on the ladder.
Well, if my ladder predictor is anything close, I think they're going to finish 5th. I think they're just going to fall out of the 4th. I think they've got a couple of difficult games. They're not playing good footy. They're still having issues going forward, which I think could cause them problems. The only thing that has me a tiny bit concerned about my tip this week that I have is, and this is it might give it away with my tip currently, is there's possibility of rain at Optus Stadium this weekend. And through the previous discussions, when it comes to Fremantle, is that when it rains, they're for some weird reason they forget how to play. So we'll have to see. But right now, I mean, if everything goes to my prediction ladder, I have Melbourne outside the top 4. I think they finish 5th. I think they lose. I think they drop this game against Fremantle. Optus Stadium is never easy to play at. It seems to be a horror show for teams going out west, and Melbourne is not playing good football right now. They're just not. They have lost more games since the bye than they've won. So I struggle to see Melbourne getting back-to-back championships unless they can figure out what bugaboo is bugging their forward line.
And remember, I feel like if you said anything close to what just came out of your mouth, Donnie, in probably round 8 or 9 of the season, you probably would have been laughed at and dragged through the comments repeatedly. But now look where we are. Look where the D's have fallen. And a lot of the talk early on in the season is like, are the D's coasting? Are they actually a great team? Can they be able to turn on later in the season? Those questions don't seem like that bad of things to ask at this point, because I think a lot of people are onto something when they start to ask that on behalf of Melbourne. The second half of the season has not been pretty to them, and even the couple of games before the bye round, also not too pretty. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of version from Melbourne we get come finals time. But scene number 2 is especially going from talking about Jamara Ugle-Hagen's fantastic performance this round. I want to ask this, and statement number 2, Donnie, the best first overall pick from the last 5 years is blank. I think I might be able to guess your answer, but I had to go back because I wanted to double check this. I knew 4. I just had to double check what the 5th one was. So here are the last 5 first overalls. Jason Horn-Francis, 2021. Jamara Ugle-Hagen, 2020. Matt Rowell, 2019. Sam Walsh, 2018. Cam Reyna, 2017. This is one of those. Let me specify this. This is the reason that I'm going to say this. When it comes to body of work, it is Sam Walsh, and it is Sam Walsh by a straight. Because out of all these guys, Cam Reyna has missed a full season with an ACL. Matt Rowell has missed almost 2 full seasons with 2 different injuries. Jamara Ugle-Hagen, honestly, because of the team he is on, he hasn't had many opportunities, and Horn-Francis has only played 18 games. So if you really look at the body of work, Sam Walsh has this easily. When it comes to the
glass ceiling, when it comes to the glass ceiling, it is hard to argue Jason Horne-Francis is not there because of the names that were being mentioned around him when he came out. Walsh was a solid player, but he was never talked about as that elite guy. Like he was deemed top level, but when he came into the league, he was more considered the outside mid, the winger type. He wasn't considered an inside mid. He's bulked up a little bit. He's added the inside mid a little bit to his game. But you got to remember, Horne-Francis has almost 4 years less wear and tear on his body right now. So the glass ceiling overall is probably for Horne-Francis. I'm one of those, I want the proven commodity right now.
Yeah.
Like if you're telling me who's the guy I build around right now, I say Sam Walsh, and I say Sam Walsh easily.
We've both taken Sam Walsh.
But if
I guess who would you rather be here, Donnie? Here, I got a question for you, especially being a Swans fan. Let me put it this way: if you could choose any one of those 5 players, really any one of the 3 players, who would you want to have on the Swans the most right now?
Who would fit in the Swans the most?
Mm-hmm. Who would fit and who would be better? If you're a coach, you can pick one of these 3, no strings attached. Who are you picking?
I'd probably take Horne-Francis because he would be able to grow, because my issue with Matty Rowell is the injury issues would have me a little bit leery. Cam Reyna is the same player as Isaac Heaney. I don't think he's a full-on midfielder. I don't think he's a full-on forward. I think he's a guy that can do both, but he's not a preference in either. Tends to play more forward. So we already kind of have a Cam Reyna and Isaac Heaney. Sam Walsh right now, honestly, like he's a great player, but Chad Warner's already kind of there. Jason Horne-Francis is a bigger body midfielder, which neither of those previous 2. Rowell is, but Rowell is not the impact guy. Rowell's kind of he's kind of become the defensive style of midfielders. Tuke Miller's kind of been the busting through the middle for them. Would Rowell change if he came to the Swans? Maybe, but if I go off what they are, and Jamaro Ugle-Hagan, I think the Swans already have that type of player in Logan McDonald. So Horne-Francis is the only guy that the Swans really don't have that exact player right now. They have him in Luke Parker, but Luke Parker is getting close to the end. So if you were saying of these 5, then I could pick off and bring to the Swans, Horne-Francis would be my first choice because he would step in and he's the heir to Luke Parker in the midfield, the bull, big body midfielder that the Swans would need to kind of round out their midfield.
Well, he certainly would fit the mold in terms of the young squad that the Swans are building right now, which is why I think they're going to be such a scary team for time to come, because right now they're clear finals contenders, they're top 4 contenders, but then they also are building up really well in terms of depth, and even on their starting list, this young group of talent that can really just immediately take. You already have a guy in McDonald who I guess is going to be the protege, the one to take over for Buddy once his time is up. You might be able to get a guy that's able to take over for Luke Parker, and you already have a bunch of young guys, even like Heaney. Isaac Heaney's one of the, he's still a younger guy. He's one of the best stars when it comes to his position in the league. And so the Swans are going to be good. They're going to be good for a little bit. And imagine if they actually were able to somehow pull off a Jason Horne-Francis and make this go from a what-if to a reality. I feel like that would come with quite the price tag, though. Even though we still don't think he's going to be at North. I don't think he'll be at North next season. Do you?
Here's the thing, and I don't want to break GWS hearts. Is if Alistair Clarkson comes to North, which it's sounding more and more like it's a possibility, I think Horne-Francis stays because he wants to be under the man. It's weird. It's weird saying that he'd be. The only thing that bugs me about the whole Alistair Clarkson thing is that he would kind of be contradicting himself a little bit, because he came out saying that he wanted to go to a team that legitimately was in a finals/flag contendership in the next couple of seasons that he comes back. North, all due respect to Clarko, is not there. Like I agree with you. Like of the two teams that are there, it's GWS. But honestly, my Smoky, and I hate saying this because I don't think it should happen, but it may. The Smoky that I would be terrified as a North and a GWS fan is Port Adelaide. That is my smoky, because if Hinckley gets let go, if Port does not make the finals, the uproar in South Australia among the Port faithful to have Hinckley gone, if that job comes available and Clarkson has not committed to either GWS or North, I would be terrified.
That's way more of a finals team.
Because Port Adelaide list-wise is there. And if you add Clarkson to that particular mix, Port Adelaide instantly, for a lot of people, probably goes from outside to next year in the finals, potentially in the talk of potential flag contenders if Clarkson waves his magic. Again, I'm going to also put an asterisk on this. He's been away from the game, and the game has changed from when he coached. And if you look at his last 3 seasons with a Hawthorn list that wasn't horrible, he didn't do too well. I don't think Clarkson is the elixir that's going to solve North's and GWS's problems in a season. I think it's going to be at least 2 to 3 before he sees finals. Even with GWS's roster, the problem GWS has is they're financially in ruins because they are so over the cap almost, basically. They're going to have a little bit of a farm sale just to be able to get under the cap next year. It may get them picks, and it may get them a lot of great talent to build. The issue is that it may set them back a year or 2 when it comes to finals and finals contention. So, again,
honestly,
is Alistair Clarkson the be-all, end-all problem solver that I think everybody talks him? I don't think so. I honestly, I think if Hopper and Taranto both go, I think it opens up enough finances, and you're going to get enough. You're going to get some compensation a little bit for it. I think you'll be okay, because you've still got some great pieces. You still got Lockie Whitfield. You still got Toby Green. You've still got Tom Green. You got to keep these guys in the fold. If any more of those guys go, then I would be a little worried.
Yeah, I would be too, and I'm almost coming around to the fact that I'm pretty sold that Port Adelaide is going to miss finals, and they're going to fire Hinckley because that's a perfect opportunity to do so. And I know tons of those Port Adelaide fans are going to be calling for his head anyway. And if Hinckley manages to find his way,
they already are.
Yeah, they've been since round 3 of the season, so they've been doing that for the last 17 rounds. So of course they are. But if Hinckley finds his way into GWS's club, I don't think that is the worst thing in the world, and I personally wouldn't hate it. I would prefer Clarkson, but I would not hate Hinckley. In fact, I might even like it. In fact, from what you're talking about Clarkson, I might even like Hinckley more. So I guess we're going to see. Maybe I'm a Giants fan trying to get my hopes down when it comes to this whole Clarko thing, but I guess we're going to see. But Donnie, segment number 3, what we got for you guys, capping off what the blank for this round is, I had the most confidence in blank to finish the year out strong.
Do I want to be pick the obvious?
You want to be boring or bold? We can do both. Is one Geelong?
I'm going to do 2. I'm going to do the almost the guaranteed one for most people, and that's Geelong. Right? Like that's almost the guarantee. Like it is almost put the Q in the rack. They're gonna most likely win all 4 games unless they take the Gold Coast. We're going to give you a day off at Metricon Stadium. I don't think it's going to happen. Honestly.
And they still probably find a way to win that game.
Maybe, you never know. Some people would say bold, some people wouldn't, and that's Sydney. Because if you look at their run home, they should win all 4. They should. I'm going to say should again with asterisk a little bit. They should at least win 3 of 4. At least
GWS
North,
this
GWS this week. Which again, if you look at it ladder wise, and I'm gonna say something because you're on here, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of. I heard this statistic today, and it kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Did you know that the last, I think it's like 3 or 4 times GWS has beaten Sydney, it has always been within a goal?
That doesn't surprise me.
And the last 3 times Sydney has beat GWS, it's been by more than 20.
Ooh. Well, when it says it comes to Let's Go, I just remember both of us. I believe it's Brad too. We're all crapping bricks at the last 5 minutes of their finals game.
It was a very interesting game last year in the finals. So
the city not be able to find the center goal, and with GWS playing horrible defense, that was something.
It was a very interesting thing. Again, if you look at Sydney, the ladder positions of the teams they're playing, they should win 3 of the 4. Collingwood is the kind of the wild card, and some people even at the SCG have Sydney as favorites, so they might be favorites in all 4 games, especially when you have North Melbourne there, GWS, North Melbourne, Collingwood, and St Kilda, which by the time they play St Kilda could be completely out of the finals by the time they get there. So the lock almost guarantee is Geelong, because they're just playing out of their minds right now. And the bold, but I honestly don't think it's as bold as some might. And that's Sydney, because if you look at their run home, it does give them a nice chance of getting at least 3, if not 4 wins going into the finals. Is it against the toughest competition? No, it's not.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes
you just have to finish out strong.
You need that. Exactly. And sometimes you need that confidence going in that you beat teams you're supposed to. And plus the fact Sydney has beaten teams above them in the ladder earlier in the season. So they have that little bit of momentum going too.
Absolutely. Well, I do love the sound of that. And then also, let us know your guys' thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Where in the ladder do you think Melbourne's going to finish? How do you think they're going to finish over the last 4? Maybe 4-0, maybe 0-4. I got them pegged going 2-2. We'll have to see on that one. And who do you have the most confidence in to finish out the season strong? And who would you rather have on your team out of the pool of the last 5 first overall picks? But we're going to hop into Team of the Round before we get to our tips. Of course, the best list from West Coast, and, well, I guess from West Coast to East Coast, but, the West Coast of the United States and the East Coast of Australia. We have the best list of players you will ever see from round 19 of the AFL season. Of course, some of them, at least we can't hear typos when it comes to talking to them over a podcast, so we're safe on this one. Donnie D should make your bench adjustment as well, because it's time for Coach Donnie's Team of the Round. Maybe he's so good he's in there twice, but what you got for us?
Okay. So all the people that have so generously and kindly told me about a few of the typo errors that I had in my team of the week, they have been adjusted. So this is the legitimate team of the week. No errors. Thank God. I will definitely pull my head in and make sure that my fat thumbs do not screw up next week's team of the week and actually put it out onto the internet. So we start with the defenders. I'm going to give a tip, and this is not a homer tip. This is because this guy played an incredible game, including, I don't know if you saw, did you see the incredible tackle that Nick Blakey of the Sydney Swans did to save a goal against the St Kilda Saints? If you haven't, let me know. I will send it to you, Ross.
Dude,
it was incredible.
How did he pull that off?
It is a 2-on-1. He got in the tackle and the secondary tackle on the guy with the footy. He just got enough of the ball to knock it out of his hands, and it rolled through for a behind. But the effort and the energy that he needed to use just to get it, and then the fact that Paddy McCartan and Dane Rampy both got to him and were rubbing his head, telling him great job. It was absolutely incredible. One of the efforts of the round for sure. Also in that same game, Jordan Dawson, again, when you have the ability to go forward and kick goals, it makes you such a dangerous player. He kind of got shut down defensively, so they had to move him forward. So he made some damages there. So I'm going to slip him in there, whether he had the greatest game or not. Sometimes you got to give guys credit because they're able to make an impact on the scoreboard. And also a fellow former Swan, also in South Australia, and that's Port Adelaide's Alir. Another great game, some great intercept marks. Really kind of helped Port Adelaide stay in this game defensively, playing a great job, and it's never easy against Tommy Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron. Also in that game also is Geelong's Tom Atkins. I mean, the rookie list player has just been playing out of his skin. The ability to go into the midfield and make an impact on this team, absolutely incredible. The Western Bulldogs, Bailey Dale, with just some incredible efforts in this game, including a spoil that really, I think, kind of helped flip the Bulldogs' fortunes late in that game to keep Melbourne from scoring and to be able to hold on to the win that they had. And last but not least, the guy that we just talked about signing a massive 6-year contract, Melbourne's Angus Brayshaw, gets the final spot on the defensive side of the ball. We go to the rucks. Big Timmy English for the Western Bulldogs had himself a day against what many people would argue is the best 1-2 punch at ruck for the Melbourne Demons and Max Gawn and Luke Jackson. Timmy English held his own, couple of goals there. Fantastic job, young man. We jump to the midfield. Some big impact players here. Starting off, Richmond's Shy Bolton. Again, another incredible game, though in a draw, still an incredible game by him. This next young man, he is playing his tail off for a North team that is not getting the results, but he's playing like I think a lot of people expected. That's North's Luke Davies Uniacke, and another incredible game by the young North star. Hawthorn's Jai Newcomb, another great game for the Hawks. Another shout out to Adelaide again. Sam Barry, incredible game there. He played his tail off. One of the few times I saw Chad Warner get outplayed in a game. Big Sam Barry. And then I'll give some love to my crosstown rivals, GWS's Stephen Canelio, continuing with his incredible form. We'll jump to the forward line. Jack Gunston coming back after his father had passed away with an incredible game that day. Big Tommy Hawkins of the Geelong Cats again. He just keeps finding a way to score goals. That guy he's got a couple more seasons in him, and he's still going to be just as dangerous as he was when he first came into the league. Here is my fix and my error for anybody that saw it. I accidentally had Levi Casbolt both on the bench and as a starter. He was not a starter.
Just so good.
He is on the bench. St. Kilda's Dan Butler is actually the sixth and final forward in this one. So my apologies on that one. I will raise my hand on that one. That is not Ross's fault. That is mine on that one. Western Bulldogs, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, as we just kind of talked, the young man had a day out. 5 goals in a big-time game against the Melbourne Demons. Hat off to you, young man. On the other side of the field in that same game, Melbourne's Bailey Fritsch, also kicking 4 goals in this game, also playing incredibly well. And you can't not have him in there. The Coleman leader, Charlie Curnow of the Carlton Blues, rounds out the starters. We jump to the bench. Carlton's Sam Dougherty, again, just an incredible season continuing there. I actually had him nip his teammate Adam Sod for this particular spot, though a few Carlton fans reached out to me and told me that they believed Sod probably deserved that spot. I can see your argument. Thank you for that. I genuinely appreciate it. Also from the Carlton Blues, also on the bench, Paddy Cripps, an incredible game, 34 disposals and a goal. Incredible performance by that midfielder. This guy is literally jumping up my ladder, and one of my favorite players, Ruckman from the Essendon Bombers, Sam Draper, another incredible goal with the banana late in the game and the high knee celebration. Love it. He is becoming a superstar by the day. Absolutely fantastic. And I kind of already gave this one away. The final forward spot, Gold Coast, Levi Casbolt with a good game up there in the Q Clash against the Brisbane Lions. So that is my team of the week. That is the correct team of the week. So forehead, palm to forehead moment there.
You know, we all have those, so it is what it is, so to say. But, also, the fun thing about Aussies, if you make a mistake, they will absolutely let you know. And maybe some of these tips might be a mistake, but I guess we're going to go ahead and find out, because it's time for our tips for round 20 of the AFL season to cap things off. And our Friday night game is going to be a freaking ripper of one, especially when it comes to finals implications, the top 4 implications, even on top of that. Because, like we were talking about, Melbourne is going to head on over to Optus Stadium to take on the Fremantle Dockers. Right now, Melbourne sits as a slight favorite in terms of betting odds and for tipsters' predictions. But I'm going to roll with the home team, even with the chances of him being a little rainy, being a little bit wet. I think I like Fremantle a little bit more. I think this comes down to where they're playing. If they're playing the MCG, I'm probably tipping Melbourne. If they're playing the Optus, I'm going to tip Freo and hope and just expect. I'm tipping them in Optus, and they just have the ability to prove me wrong.
I'm also I'm tipping Fremantle again onto Stadium. The only thing that bugs me, like I said earlier, is the rain forecast. The possibility of rain that day bugs me because I for some weird reason in the 2 games they played in the wet, they have not played well. So that's my only worry on this. I'm gonna tip Fremantle again. If it is dry, I think Fremantle at home play really, really well again. Melbourne is not playing as good a footy. Again, I find it interesting that Fremantle is actually a dog in the tipping competition. At least on my side, I've got 54% Melbourne, 46% Freo. So this really is a coin toss for a lot of tipsters, at least in mine. I don't know what is your percentage.
I have 44% for Freo, so just a couple off.
So a few more tipping Melbourne. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to tip Fremantle in this one. But this is not a super confident one because I think both teams have found ways to lose games they probably shouldn't, and both found ways to win games as well. So I'm going to tip Fremantle in this one.
Absolutely. So we're there on the same page here. And one I was actually going back and forth on. This is another one where it might sound like a cop-out, but it really does come down to where they're playing. They're playing at MCG. I'm rolling with Collingwood over Port Adelaide, and they're probably going to win this game by 4 points. And Adelaide's going to blow a lead. That's my detailed prediction. Adelaide blows a lead. Collingwood wins by 4.
Some people would call this a bold tip. I don't think it's as bold tip because again, I think this is a much better team. Mm-hmm. I'm tipping Port this one.
Fair tip.
Because though this is at the MCG, and again, Port doesn't always play the MCG well. The fact that I'm hearing rumors that Mason Cox may be out due to illness, I think could be a blow to this Collingwood team, because if they have to bring in a rookie backup ruckman to help out Cameron, I think that could actually hurt Collingwood a little bit. It may mess up their structure a little bit going forward. And it's already difficult sometimes going against Port Adelaide with Lear's ability. Dan Houston's playing really well. Darcy Byrne-Jones is playing really well in the back line for Port Adelaide. So I don't consider this a bold tip, but at least in my tipping competitions, it is at 12% tipping Port. Again, 17. Collingwood fans, don't be angry with me. I don't like your mojo. I don't like that you're winning games against not good teams by close margins. I'm worried this one gets away from you. If Port gets a lead and gets a significant lead, I think this gets away from you. We'll have to see. I'm gonna tip Port in this one, but I'm fascinated by this because if this gets under 10, I'm going to be sweating this tip big time.
Obviously, it's going to be a challenge for Collingwood to overcome if they are indeed without Mason Cox, because, of course, anytime you're without the greatest American footy player ever, the greatest Australian-American footy player ever, that's missing a superstar right there. And I'd be remiss if I did not.
The other thing that's going to annoy us, Rosh, the other thing that's going to annoy us, this game is going to be playing at the same goddamn time as the Swans Giants game.
Well, join us for both games because I'll have both up. It's going to be a focus on the Sydney Derby. With I'll at least bust out my laptop and have Collingwood and Port in the background. We'll talk about both, and it'll be a great time.
We should start the stream watching this and then flip over to the GWS Sydney game. We probably should. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun to do that.
Hey, we're going to do it. We'll start
the stream earlier
to join us. Exactly. We're going to be starting a little bit around. Let's go with American East Coast time. So that is going to be 11. We're going to start a little bit after 11:30 p.m. on Friday for East Coast time. I don't know what the hell is in Australia. I still don't have time zones remembered. I just know it's going to be afternoon.
I think it's 1:30 in the. I think it's like 1:30 in the afternoon. I think ish time here. I can pull it up.
Donnie with the world clocks. I think that's one thing I would need in my studio.
I can still go with your tips if you want. Who do you got for GWS Sydney in the next game?
Oh yeah, well I mean I'm going with Sydney. This isn't really much of a question. I feel like we're both on the same page with this one. I mean either like you said, GWS is going to finish with GWS is going to win this by a goal, or Sydney is going to kind of play with GWS, and it's not going to be close. I just know no matter what the score, it's going to be an entertaining game because it always is at the Derby. But I'm definitely not tipping GWS in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one that'll be quite interesting. I'm gonna tip Sydney in this one, but I worry as a Sydney fan that this is one of those where GWS can come out playing free. There's so much more that the Swans could lose in this situation. If certain things happen certain ways. So it's definitely one of those that you look at it and go, how does this kind of work out to, how does this play out? Does Sydney take the Swans lightly? Does GWS come out breathing fire? Like, I think that's kind of my thing that I look at and I go, how is this gonna kind of play out, when it comes to,
who's hot in
when it comes to basically
also
how does
well, we're
it
gonna have
start?
to take we're gonna have to bet on that, and we're gonna have to take bets on before we start the stream on which quarter Sydney is going to suck in, because typically you get one out of the four, they're going to be horrible. So we're going to have to take our picks there on if it's going to be first, second, third, or fourth.
The only problem is sometimes about setting up military time. The game will start. The game, it looks like it is going to start at the Collingwood Port Adelaide game starts at 1:45 p.m. Melbourne time, and then the Swans game starts at 2:10 p.m. Melbourne/Sydney time.
Okay. Fair enough. So it'll work out for you guys.
It's about middle afternoon for them on a Saturday
afternoon. Come join us on
a
YouTube.
Sunday.
It's going to be a party. We're going to have a good time. I'll maybe have a little snack. You guys have a little lunch, and we're going to watch the footy together, and it's going to be great. And here we go. So
we may be on a little bit of delay to the internet, but
is what it is. Is what it is. It'd be like that. And shout out to the internet. But okay, so here is what I'm going to do. It might sound like a cop out in my point, because if I really want to be like super bold, I was probably going to dip north against Essendon. I just wasn't willing to go that far. But so I did two kind of bold tips, and I'm just going to combine that to one. It's my show. I make the rules. It is what it is. Take it up with me in the comments. But my bold tip of the round.
Take it up with me in the comments. That's a scary thought process there.
But my bold tip of the round is going to be, especially after maybe the odds aren't as bold, but the percentages definitely are. 70% of people are tipping Hawthorn over St. Kilda, and I am one of them. I am going to take Hawthorn over St. Kilda, even though it's going to be at Marvel, because, what's one thing St. Kilda is known for? Inconsistency. What's one thing Hawthorn is known for? Sucking. I have no idea where I'm going to go with this, but Hawthorn over St. Kilda, sure. Let's book it.
So you're telling me on the AFL app it has Hawthorn being tipped 70%.
17.
Or is that St. Kilda?
17 is for Hawthorn. 83%.
17.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it is about the same, because it's 84% for St. Kilda, 16% for Hawthorn.
Yeah, so same thing.
I'm going to tip St. Kilda in this one, because Hawthorn, they just have some deficiencies in just the right places, and I think St. Kilda gets a little bit of a jump. It's at Marvel Stadium, which I think fits St. Kilda a little bit more than it fits Hawthorn. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tip St. Kilda, but this is a game I thought about a lot for Hawthorn, because I think Hawthorn's got a lot more positive things as a whole over the last few rounds than St. Kilda has. St. Kilda really only has a win over a West Coast team that didn't play as well as I was expecting, where Hawthorn has been kind of consistently playing well. They just maybe haven't always got the wins. So I'm going to tip St. Kilda in this one, but this is one of those, your bold tip is not a bold tip in my personal opinion. I think Hawthorn really is in this game.
Same thing with me with you for Port Adelaide. So we're kind of on the same page with that one. Now, I'm going for the second consecutive round. I'm going to say that the Western Bulldogs, I actually really like their chances of pulling off the upset against a big team, against Geelong. Of course, I like their chances a lot more against Melbourne than Geelong, but clearly there's a better team out of those two. But I wouldn't be too shocked, at least if we get a hell of a game out of this one, because I am looking forward to this. The Doggies have the wild factor that they can bring against anyone. I do think Geelong gets it done, but I would not surprise if this is a very, very good game of footy.
I'm gonna go off of this. It's a GMHBA stadium, which is a little bit tighter confines, and with the Doggies handballish style game, the tighter confines kind of constricts it a little bit, is that there's going to be more people in closer proximity, which I think will hurt their game style. Their defense does not have the defenders good enough. And again, no disrespect, Doggies fans. Hawkins and Cameron are so good. I don't think you have a defender that can guard either of them. So I don't think it matters who's guarding them. They're going to be a nightmare to try to defend. Baku Kamis has come in and played really, really well. Can he stay with Cameron? Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. If you put him on Hawkins, he's undersized on Hawkins. Hawkins is going to body him all day. I think Keith gets the matchup with Hawkins. The problem there is I think Hawkins has a strength advantage over Keith, and he may even have a speed advantage over Keith. So I don't like the matchups, especially going forward. English will give Reece Stanley headaches, so I think that'll somewhat even out. But you've got some workhorse guys in the midfield for Geelong that I think will even out that contest. And defensively, Geelong is stout. Jamara, can he back it up? We'll have to see. Bruce, can he start making an impact after he's come back from his ACL? We'll have to see. I just like the advantages for Geelong a lot more than I like the advantages that the Doggies have. So I'm going to tip the Cats in this one.
Now, I guess we never exactly know what we can get from Adelaide. This is a game where Carlton should be able to go into the Oval and win. The Adelaide Crows are, they're kind of a wild card game, but way less wild, more just inconsistent. But I'll tip Carlton in this one.
I'm gonna tip Carlton, but I'm gonna say this, being, if I remember correctly, this game is at the Adelaide Oval, which can sometimes give them a boost. Again, Carlton's kind of one of those teams where it just kind of depends on how they start. Like GWS went at Adelaide Oval and smacked them around like a redheaded stepchild. So unfortunately, you just don't know. Adelaide's been much more competitive over these last 2 or 3 weeks against some really good teams. So I think Adelaide comes out, gives it, but there's just no defense right now that can stomp the two-headed monster that is Mackay and Curnow when they're on. If they're off just the littlest bit, that neutralizes the game, that evens out the game a little bit. So Adelaide's just got to hope Curnow and Mackay have a bad game, and Tex Walker has a game of his life, and the midfield can do some damage against a very good midfield of the Carlton Blues. I tip the Blues in this one, but I'm keeping a sniff on Adelaide. I think if this one stays close, Adelaide's got a shot.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy statement there. Going over to Metricon, I'm going to take the Gold Coast Suns over the West Coast Eagles. Probably got the Suns. They're playing for their finals lives right now. I'll take them probably by a couple goals over West Coast. I don't know if I 100% agree with the odds on this one, with West Coast being more than $4 underdogs. But I think Gold Coast is going to pull this off.
I think Gold Coast wins this one, but I think this one is a dandy. I think West Coast stays in this one because they have that experience. They have the talent there. Whether Nick Nat is back or not is the $9 million question. If he's back, I think I give West Coast a lot more shot in this. If he is not, Witts is going to have a field day against the youngster Bailey Williams, and I think which will give Gold Coast a huge advantage. I'm tipping the Suns, but if Nat Newey's back, I think the Eagles are much, much more in this game than some people are giving them credit for.
Now, the next game is one where I think these are the worst odds of the round, and that's having Brisbane is underdogs to Richmond. I understand that's an MCG, but what the hell is going on here? Because Richmond, although tipsters are only tipping them at a 44% rate on the AFL website, they are 15-cent favorites in this one. I'm going to go with, I guess, the underdog tip here, which really should be underdogs. I like Brisbane way more than I like how Richmond's looked in the last few rounds.
They're getting Lynch back, so that gives them a little bit of help, but there's still some inconsistencies in the midfield. I think a lot of people, I think the punters, which is you're getting your betting odds, are going off the fact that Brisbane hasn't won at the G in over 8 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the biggest thing. The tipsters are going off history, which I think it makes sense, but Brisbane's playing much better footy. I think they get over this hex. I think this is the perfect team to get. Is Lynch going to be at his peak powers after coming back from a hamstring injury? Probably not, which I think will help. There's so many different matchups that I want to see. Can Danaher, can the forward line of the Brisbane Lions be as dangerous as they look on paper? On paper, they're one of the most dangerous forward lines because you have a three-headed monster that are super hard to stop because they all can do different things. So I wish I knew what Brisbane team was going to show up. If it's the Brisbane team that can score quickly and play good defense, Richmond is in trouble. If it's a team that's inconsistent and not kicking goals and leaky a little bit defensively, Richmond's in with a chance. In fact, I would almost tip Richmond if I knew that.
Yeah, so. I guess you can go off the history, but I mean, just if I had no idea what the history was, because impartially,
it's a shaky history. It's a shaky history because you did have the gap where nobody played at the MCG for 2 years, so it's like it looks much more daunting than it really is. I think it's 8 or 9 years. I mean, it's really only 6 or 7 because you have 2 years where nobody played. Very few teams played at the G.
Very good point.
The statistic is both, it makes sense, but it has a few flaws in it if you really break it down.
Absolutely, it does here. And speaking about the teams with flaws, let's talk about Essendon North, the last game of the round. And like I spoke on earlier, I was kind of tempted just to say really screw it and say North Melbourne's going to win this game, which I don't think is a total hyperbole. I just like the way Essendon's been playing too much to tip for North. I'm not tipping Essendon to win. I'm tipping them to not lose against North.
Yeah, I think Essendon, honestly, except for the befuddlement that is the final defensive play, Essendon actually played pretty well. They made errors when they couldn't afford to. I mean, that's pretty much the easiest way I can put it down. I'm pretty confident in Essendon in this one. Again, I think North Melbourne right now is in survival mode. They're just trying to get through the end of the year. They're making some impacts. Some younger players are having some performances. I mean, they got their big win over the Richmond Tigers, and I think they kind of used all their energy in that, and they're just kind of spent. I think they're going to be witches' hats through the rest of the year. Unless they get lucky and a team really takes them for granted, I don't know if Melbourne wins another game this year. This should be a big win for Essendon in the final game of the round.
Fair enough. It should be a fun round. Probably not going to cap it off with the most important game that we're going to see this season, but it's what we get nonetheless. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning into our Round 19 breakdown. Of course, let us know all your thoughts on the topics that we covered this round. Is the Medi sub rule an issue? Should it be changed? Did Richmond take advantage of it? We don't think they did, but go ahead and let us know. Is Port Adelaide going to be missing on the finals? Is Melbourne going to be dropping out of the top 4? And who is going to have the best finish to the season? But of course, I've been your host, Ross Allen. It's been another lovely time with the amazing Coach Donnie. And Coach, your thoughts on yearbook superlatives in one word or phrase?
For the show, or just as a whole? Yeah. Like honestly, if you're talking about the show, I'm talking about yearbook. I think it's
Did you guys have those in high school? The yearbook superlatives? Yeah.
I'm not that old.
I wasn't calling you. Also, before we finish these off, congrats on the anniversary, by the way, you not so old man. But your thoughts on yearbook superlatives?
They were always fun. I enjoyed them. It's something you can go back over the years and be able to see the connections that you had, especially considering there are some people that nowadays, I mean, you lose contact with.